If I make a mistake where I accidentally make a dark spot like this, then it's best to use an eraser. Take out that spot. And then replace the lines so that it's a little more even. For the next space, I'm going to continue to use this pencil, the HB, and make my lines even closer. And press a little bit harder as well. You can see I just made a dark spot. I'll go back and fix that in a little bit. Now I'm going to switch to a darker pencil. I'm going to use a 2B. This one needs to be sharpened. For the last one, I'm going to press hardest, and I'm going to use my darkest pencil. For this one, your lines are going to be so close together that you probably won't have too much space, and that'll make it a darker value, but you should still be able to see lines rather than scribbles or anything along that line. Pun not intended. So I'm carefully putting more lines in areas where I feel it's a little bit lighter than the rest to make it more even. And then I can show you some things to avoid. So, here are some things not to do. Lest we forget. Alright, so a couple things. If you're trying to make light areas, don't put your lines so far apart that it looks like stripes. Usually, this is going to look a little awkward. Another thing not to do is to go really fast and end up having lines overlapping a lot, because you'll get dark areas like this and light areas that'll look just uneven, and then you'll give the impression of a texture that you probably aren't intending. Another thing not to do, rush. That is bad. And going back and forth. Because you'll see as I'm adding this value in here, I can't help but overlap every time I make a new row. And it ends up looking almost like stripes, and it's harder to keep control. Also, you want to make sure that your lines are pretty much going in the same direction. If they're not, then it's not it's not hatching. It's something else. You also don't want to smudge. Smudging can sometimes be good, but for our purposes now, when we're doing hatching, we want to rely more on the line's closeness than something like this. It's not so much about being smooth completely, it's more about having even tone. Another thing not to do, if you're doing a gradient, for me, is to fill the space in completely. The last thing, if you're hatching the darkest one, don't go all over the place, because it just won't match. It won't have the same texture. Even though it's all the way dark, you'll still be able to see the pencil lines, and it just won't look the same. It's a good idea if you're using a certain shading technique, you should use it all throughout your artwork so that your whole artwork looks like it's done by the same person, and it looks like it's, you know, a whole piece and nothing's looking out of place. Also, going outside the edges, normally not a huge deal, but if you want to make a pretty neat assignment or neat gradient, then avoid it. If you do go over the edges, not a huge deal. You can erase. And it's all pretty. So these are some things not to do. You can see how it ends up getting uneven, dark patches when you use these methods. Go slowly and try to make your lines as accurate as you possibly can. And that's hatching.